It's football and other F words. And guess what? We made it to Mobile. The draft starts here. The draft starts in Mobile. I'm joined by Stoney Keeley at Stoney Keeley. This is our third year doing it. Your fourth year.
My
Our
fourth year,
third year
yeah.
together is our third year anniversary. What anniversary is that?
Uh,
Because I know the first one's paper, right?
the lotion anniversary, I believe.
Okay.
The Lotion Boys.
The Lotion Boys are back here in Mobile, brought to you by Lyons Ford. It was really crazy. So we drove down in the Lyons Ford Explorer.
We did.
It has Blue Cruise, which is hands-free, which is kind of wild to think. Like everything is, all of it, just like it's wild. I didn't even have to touch it, and we could cruise like 80 miles an hour down the interstate.
Yeah.
It would let us know when it was available to like put your hands back on. So Lyons Ford, go down to Lewisburg, Tennessee, drive a little, save a lot. And of course, Mark Spain Real Estate as well. You all know the drill. Mark Spain Real Estate is one of the best real estate agents in the Nashville area. So we got a lot to get to, a lot of Senior Bowl coverage to get to.
Yeah.
I guess let's start off the top rope. What is your biggest disappointment when it comes to the lack of what player not being here?
So
is your biggest disappointment?
So I was jotting this down, and there are quite a few omissions from today's measurement spree. The Senior Bowl tweets out the little cards that have the height, weight, hand size, arm size or arm length, wingspan, that sort of stuff. There's a lot of players that are still outstanding. From the offensive line, Johnny Cornelius of Oregon, Jack Nelson of Wisconsin, Chase Lunt of UConn, a guy that I was really stoked to watch this week as well. Charles Grant, the kid out of William and Mary. Tight end Gunnar Helm from Texas. The pass rusher, Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M, guy that is like a fringe top 10 caliber pick. Good power rusher, a position that obviously the Titans need. Was excited to get a look at him this week. So far, it's all quiet on that front. And then Savion Williams as well. Williams.
That's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah. Noel Williams, no measurements from the Senior Bowl. He's playing at the Shrine Bowl right now, practicing down there.
Who is?
Noel Williams, the cornerback out of Cal. So I don't know. We're all over the place here. I will say we have gotten reporting on Cam Scadaboo, Andrew Makuba, Vernon Broughton, and Alec Ayamaner. Reporting is out there that they will not be in Mobile.
J.C. Davis, right? Didn't
J.C. Davis is going back to school, going back to
Yeah.
Illinois. So he rescinded his accepted invite to the Senior Bowl. He is in Champaign, Illinois, I would presume. So a lot of disappointing players not here. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind that is, if there are injury concerns. Of course, we know the Ohio State and the Notre Dame guys just played in a grueling national championship game, so they won't be there. But really disappointed that we're not going to get to see Chase Lunt, Charles Grant, and Savion Williams, and Nick Scorton.
There's a Jay Higgins and a Jaden Higgins from Iowa State? Is that right?
I think that's the same person. There's a Jaden Higgins and a Jalen Noel.
Well, now right here, that's Iowa, out of Iowa. Is there Jay Higgins out of Iowa?
Oh, there may be inside linebacker. I haven't done.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of inside linebacker talk.
The
that
Titans
usually,
need help,
to me, excuse me, I've been battling another sickness,
fighting through it, fighting hurt tonight.
I look at the inside linebacker position. I don't do much research outside of like the known guys because to me, it's all about what they do at practice and what they do in the game.
Yeah, and it's really hard. Like you and I have heard before, like through the grapevine, that agents don't really like the linebackers coming down here because the one-on-one drills are not very advantageous to them.
But even though 2 years ago, I mean, you got guys like Ivan Pace, Dan Henley, guys that really flew up on the radar last year. Kind of agree. I mean, the inside linebackers and the safeties were both kind of a muddled mess until the game.
Yeah.
And Evan Williams was the only real guy that really stood out besides James Williams, but James Williams stood out from an effort standpoint.
Yeah.
Not really a like making splash plays kind of standpoint. So like to me, I just kind of look at it and I go, at that point, you just got to see who rises to the top at the inside line. And same with safety, too. Safety's the same way.
And I see Landon asking in the chat, Savion Williams not doing anything. We don't know yet. There's been no concrete reporting saying for sure that he's not going to be here this week that I have found. I'm just saying I think it's a little unusual that all of the measurements have come out. They've been out The last one came out a couple of hours ago, and we still have no word on Savion Williams. And he's a very dynamic, electric offensive player that I think a lot of Titans fans probably heard the name leading up to the Senior Bowl and thought this is a guy that could really help this football team. I tend to agree, and I'm in the same boat as you guys. Like, where is he? Where is he? Savion Williams, if you're watching.
I mean, that was a
please
guy
let us
I was
know.
hyped to
I
see.
know, man. He's a weapon.
Yeah.
A weapon.
He can play all the different positions that you need.
Running
I'm
back,
just really
tight end.
disappointed. I hate that. If he's truly not here, massive disappointment.
It will be. Yeah.
What's been the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise, I think, oh man, I don't know that anything has really surprised me so far. I will say the most impacted I have felt today was when David Walker's measurements came out. He is the edge rusher out of Central Arkansas. Really good tape. He's one of my favorite players. I thought he might be a good little addition on day 3 in this draft. His tape's good enough to be like a day 2 kind of guy. But when the measurements come out and you are 6 foot, 267 as an edge rusher, 31 and 6/8 arms, and a 77-inch wingspan. Those are not ideal measurements for your edge rusher. He's listed as a linebacker on the Senior Bowl website, so it kind of makes me wonder if there's a little finagling going on there, or maybe he gets some run at linebacker this week because he is a little smaller, undersized compared to a lot of these edge rushers that are coming out today at like 6'5", 6'3", almost pushing 300 pounds. It just seems like he's a really, really significant step below those guys in terms of size projection. And that kind of caught me by surprise because his tape looks really good. And I was hoping for the best with him.
Yeah, I look at Jalen Royals from Utah State, 5'11", 210.
Stocky. That is stout. That's a good player, too.
31-inch arm, 73 and 3/8 wingspan. That's a guy that is looking to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
I put him kind of in that Xavier Restrepo, group.
Absolutely.
A guy that you're probably going to see make big strides this week, jump up the boards, turn himself into a concrete round 2 kind of pick. I really like I think Will Bowling hit it on the head. When the Tennessee Titans got into a red zone, they didn't have guys that could win in a phone booth.
Yeah, for sure.
And Tony Pollard is one of them. Nick Westbrook-Akine is surprisingly one of them. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for guys kind of like what you saw over at the Shrine Bowl and what you're hearing about LaJohntay Wester. I'm looking for guys that could beat people with double moves off the line.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Xavier Restrepo in particular for that, especially if you draft Cam Ward. I think it's good to go ahead and bring in Xavier Restrepo with your second-round pick, hopefully in a trade back for better value. But also look at a guy like Jalen Royals who could possibly do something like that as well.
I think he's a guy that would go a lot higher than he's currently projected if he wasn't coming off of an injury, significant injury. He missed a lot of time in 2024. But I'll tell you guys, if you want to get familiar with Jalen Royals, you can fire up the YouTube machine, YouTube his highlights against Boise State. It's really good tape, but the highlights I think in this case are pretty electric too. I think you can get by with that. 211 yards, 2 touchdowns against Boise State is a really good game of his. I like Royals quite a bit, and I was encouraged to see him come in at 210 pounds. That's a stocky 5'11" right there.
And that's what you're kind of looking for. So you want to see, does that affect his explosiveness from there? Mm-hmm. Let's shift gears to the offensive linemen.
Big day for the tackles.
Really a surprising day. I mean, there's so much we can get into about this offensive line group because you have guys that came in with arms way bigger and meet the threshold that we than we thought. And we have some guys that came in way shorter than what we thought.
Sure.
Wyatt Millam would be one of those guys. Way, way shorter. 32-inch arms.
32 and 5/8 inch arms.
But you got guys like Armand Membu, 34-inch arms.
That clears.
81-inch wingspan. I mean, that super clears. And that's a guy that you're kind of looking for. Anthony Belton, also
Mauler.
Clears.
Yeah.
So, what about the offensive line are you excited to get into tomorrow?
Yeah, and another name that you didn't mention was Jonah Savanea out of Arizona, a guy that was being presumed to kick inside to guard at the next level, but he's got some really good tape at right tackle to have the length, the weight. I know he's not tall. I think he's 6'3" or 6'4", somewhere in that range, which is a little bit shorter compared to some of these guys, but to have the weight, to have the arm length, and the tape that goes out there and matches up with it. A versatile piece that probably could kick inside to guard if you needed him to, but I think he should get a shot at right tackle. He even played some left tackle at Arizona. Very versatile guy that I'm going to be keeping my eye on this week down here.
I mean, that's to me is what's perfect, is that not only would you have versatility, but you have the experience, right? Because you kind of had the experience with J.C. Latham. But if you do decide to get kind of crazy in training camp and decide to move J.C. Latham, which I would suggest not to, you at least have an option there, a young option, but you have 2 bookend tackles. The problem is, I think these tackles are all going to fly up the board. You know how people say there's a quarterback draft?
Yeah.
I feel like there's now a tackle draft.
There's a tackle draft.
And I think that guys like Armand M'Bou,
who has tackle tape, by the way.
Right. Arianta Easley.
Yeah.
You have what we just said in Jonah as well.
Savanea. We got it. We practiced it on the way here.
And then you guys got like Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks, depending on where people think they slot in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're going to see quite a few people fly up those draft boards. So that's why it'll be really interesting to see, even the people that had the arms, do they still go to guard just to see what they can do?
Yeah, maybe. I want to talk about Anthony Belton coming in. I mean, this is a guy that is 6'5", 345 pounds, looks every bit as thick and big on tape. He is a mauler. You've said it best. He is a guy that looks to put his opponent in the dirt every chance that he gets. He came in with 10 and a quarter inch hands, frying pan hands, 34 and 5/8 inch arms, and an 83 and an 1/8 inch wingspan. So he clears the size barrier. I'm going to put it out there from a size perspective. I kind of feel like this is the type of tackle that this Titans regime is looking for under Bill Callahan. These run concepts. I know there are some interesting character concerns about Belton out there. At one point, dismissed from, I can't remember wherever he transferred from. There were some rumblings there. Spit in a player's face this season. Has a little bit of dog to him, I would say.
The opposite of NPF in every way.
Yeah, and I think there are some injury concerns with him as well. He has some injuries in his past that kind of concern you for an offensive line. But as far as style of play, that box was checked from the tape. He is a mauler. And then from the measurements, the size itself, that box is checked as well. So I think this is a guy that looks like he would be the type of offensive tackle that Bill Callahan would want to get his hands on.
Are there any small school prospects that you saw, as far as offensive line goes, that you saw from the measurements? You're like, ooh, that's intriguing.
So I do think Gray Zabel's arm length kind of disqualifies him from playing tackle. I do think that he's going to be a guard at the next level. He has some good tape. You can watch his game against Colorado as well. I do want to mention, I have not watched any of Carson Vinson yet. This is the kid out of Alabama A&M, played tackle. I've seen the same rumblings about him that have virtually every offensive tackle in this class. Oh, he's going to be a guard, doesn't have the range to play tackle, that sort of deal. But the measurements came in on this guy, and this is just absurd to me. 6'6", 314, 35 and an 1/8 inch arms, and an 83 and 6/8 inch wingspan.
Wow.
That is some length right there. A little lighter frame at 314, but that is some serious length to the Alabama A&M tackle. And then I will also say Ozzie Trapilo of Boston College, their right tackle, kind of a nasty reputation as well. Played right tackle at Boston College, coming in at 33 and a half inch arms. That is right there on the fringe of acceptable tackle play. That was kind of a surprise to me. Nonetheless, Trapilo, 6'7", 321 pounds.
I know nobody wants to talk about interior offensive linemen too much.
Well, I think they're going to need some guard help, and they could use a young developmental center too. I think.
I'm looking at Clay Webb from Jacksonville State.
Yeah. Reputation
does not wear gloves.
Does not wear gloves. No.
So that's an automatic upgrade.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, isn't that like put him in the Hall of Fame if he does not wear gloves?
Absolutely. That's how you know he's tough.
What do you think about these tight ends?
The tight ends, yeah.
Because I look at these tight ends, they're coming in big. They're massive.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You all right over there?
No. Okay. They're massive. But I look at it from a situation of these. Josh Wiley didn't really do much. He wasn't the prince that was promised.
Yeah.
Chig kind of turned it up, but now you got Luke Stalker. This team is in need of a tight end.
I think so too.
Can you what are you looking for from
Well,
these tight ends.
okay, so let's break this down. Let's peel back the layers of this onion. If we think, okay, Chigakonkwo turns it on late in the season, which stop me if you've heard that before. How do you determine, by the way, this might be a separate conversation to be had, but how do you determine after several years of late season surges from Chigakonkwo, when do you actually make the evaluation, say, well, which is he? Is he first half Chig or is he second half Chig? Because I think that could impact your decision to draft a tight end this year as well. So that's a separate conversation. But I think if you look at his resurgence late in the season, it's encouraging that he could potentially be a weapon in this offense. I think when you look at Nick Vanette's blocking ability, his ability in the red zone to catch touchdowns when they needed him to, really good blocker. Josh Wiley, to me, kind of feels like the odd man out. Now, I know they hit him on a wheel route every once in a while that looked pretty, and he scored a touchdown off of one of them. But I had higher expectations for Josh Wiley than he met this season. So for me, it feels like he is kind of the odd man out in this rotation. And if you're looking for somebody to fill his size and skill set, I don't know that you're looking for the guys like Harold Fannin Jr. down here, who is like a pass catching tight end. Came in, I didn't write his measurements down, but he was a little lighter framed than I had thought. But I think, it depends philosophically what you want to do. Do you just want to straight up fill a role, or do you just want to get the best tight end that you possibly can? Because I'm with you. I do think it could be a sneaky need in this draft.
Well, and also it's a good need. You even got a Rondé Gadsden over the Syracuse over at the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Kid from Miami came in pretty lengthy too.
I mean, these guys all came in lengthy. It's like a bunch of basketball players out there right now.
Yeah, it is.
Looking at going back to wide receiver, excuse me, Jaden Higgins is an intriguing prospect, but also Pat Bryant. I know that you're not a big Pat Bryant guy from the film.
Yeah.
But what could he do to possibly change your mind this week?
Well, for me, my big knock on Pat Bryant is that when you look at his production, he is most productive against the worst teams in the Big Ten. When it came to playing the big dogs in the Big Ten, they were able to shut him down. So for Pat Bryant, a guy that looks to have adequate size for the NFL, good size for the NFL, I would say, and
good speed,
seems to have adequate speed on tape. He's got to prove that he can do it against NFL talent for me. And thankfully for him, Mobile, Alabama, their last week of January is the perfect place to do that, because you're going to be going up against what looks like a pretty good cornerback group down here this year.
Yeah, the wide receivers have the work cut out for them. Last year, the wide receivers kind of didn't show up compared to the prior year, but they actually, I think the class ended up being better in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how that works throughout this week, because you're right. The cornerbacks are out of this world.
Yeah.
The defensive backs in general are out of this world this week. But I look at Jaden Higgins, and I saw what he was able to do in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah.
And I saw that the way he can use his frame, the athleticism that he has. I'm really interested to see how he does with a guy like Thomas from Florida State. Say his name, first name.
Azarie
Thomas.
Azarie.
Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see all these instances of these guys that maybe come from a conference that isn't known for its defensive back play per se.
Sure.
And go up against, some of these guys that they've never gone up against that are really, really good. And that's what you really want to see from this wide receiver class this week. And I think that's why I kind of zone in on the slot guys this year, is because the Titans desperately need a slot guy. Yeah. Tyler Boyd, he was okay, but he was on the decline like many thought he would be. And Jaquan Jackson. Well, hopefully, let me say something. Jaquan Jackson, let me say something about Jaquan Jackson real quick. He had a terrible Senior Bowl week last year, and they still drafted him. So I'm hoping...
Relatively invisible last year.
So I'm hoping that they kind of avoid that situation.
Yeah, and this wide receiving group, what makes it so interesting to me is that it is a sort of pick your flavor group. Like, you've got your big X guys out there like Jaden Higgins. You've got your shifty slot guys. You've got your versatile weapons. Well, we think you've got your versatile weapons with Savion Williams, but we don't know about him. You've got whatever you're looking for, you can find someone in this group. I'm a fan of Jack Beck. I think he's got the most polish to him. I think he's got some sneaky good speed. He's got really good sudden change of direction move. I think he's versatile and has enough size to probably play outside if you need him to. But I think he could be that weapon in the slot. You mentioned Xavier Restrepo. I think he's a tough guy as well. But then there are the guys like you talked about the Iowa State receivers. Jalen Noel looks like a pretty stocky, shifty little slot guy as well. So there's some talent down here. If the Titans are indeed shopping for a new slot receiver, you can find that guy in Mobile this week.
Right. And it sounds like I just
You
cough
all right?
right into the microphone every
You
time.
all right? That's
I can feel it
hey,
coming, and I just like, oh no, I'm just going to keep coughing right
Listen.
in this. That's why we color coded these, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was blue because I have blue eyes.
No.
But hey, listen, the people appreciate it. You're fighting hurt tonight. You're playing through injury tonight to bring these people a show.
And Bustin' Diamond in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube is totally correct. LeJounte Wester in particularly is tearing it up.
I keep seeing notes about all three of them.
Doing double moves and all this stuff. And here's
Yeah.
the thing about LeJounte Wester I want to throw out to Bustin' Diamond. Again, if you're going to draft Shadur Sanders,
Chemistry.
I would go with LeJounte Wester over the
Yeah.
other two for the needs of this team currently. But dude averages 7.1 yards after catch per reception.
That's sexy.
He has one of the lowest contested target rates in the NFL, or in this draft class, 13%. 66.4% contested catch rate.
So what does that mean? Tell them what it means.
That means that he gets open a lot, and when he doesn't get open,
he still catches the ball.
Thank you for filling that in for me. He still catches it. And Ricky White has been a long time F-words guy.
I love Ricky
Behind
White.
the scenes, I don't think we've really talked a lot about Ricky White, but we've talked about Ricky White amongst ourselves.
I've written about him. There's an eval on Stacking the Inbox because his tape against Syracuse is some of my favorite tape that I've watched so far this cycle.
Yeah. Just
really clean release package, really shifty break guy. He's primarily probably going to be a slot receiver in the NFL, but at UNLV they weren't afraid to line him up all over the place. I think the question with him is straight line deep speed.
Right.
And but from the reps that I'm seeing going viral on Twitter this week, he's kind of cooking DBs down at the Shrine Bowl with that release package.
Look at a guy like Jordan Addison, right? Not the fastest guy, but he's kind of small and he can still kind of move around because he has that route refinement.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I will say that's one of my misevaluations, that I've keyed in on his athleticism way too much.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, his route running, his strength, his ability to, do all those things at a high level, mitigate the speed. And that's kind of where I'm at with Ricky White. My big takeaway from this draft class is trying my best not to fall in love with the athletic darlings, I guess you could say.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because in the NFL, you have to everybody is fast in the NFL.
Yeah.
And everybody's faster than the people in college in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out, especially in the slot, how to win in different ways, specifically with your route running and your release packages.
And you got to fight in that phone booth too. You got to be able to break out of that thing when you need to.
Right.
Like Superman.
Yeah. You got to be able to do it. So that takes us to the quarterbacks. But before we get to the quarterbacks, just want to give a shout out to Lyons Ford and Mark Spain Real Estate, our sponsors, Lyons Ford in Lewisburg, Tennessee. You need a new car, you need a pre-owned car, they're going to give you the best deal you got. They're going to give you the most bang for your buck on your trade-in. And they're going to, if you're looking at new, they are going to find every discount you qualify for. So Lyons Ford in Lewisburg, Tennessee, drive a little, save a lot. They are family-owned business. And then, of course, Mark Spain Real Estate. They're all over our airways. They're a fantastic real estate company. Go to Mark Spain. If you're trying to sell your house and you're running into some issues, go to Mark Spain Real Estate today, and they'll try to get you all set up and get you into your next dream home.
And Landon, all three of the Colorado wide receivers are down at the Shrine Bowl.
Correct. So let's talk about the quarterbacks, because really it comes down to, okay, let's stop right there.
What?
Okay, before we go to the quarterbacks, because this name got brought up and I can't believe we haven't talked about it yet. Tez Johnson.
Yeah, I'm out. 5'9", 156. I got 140 pounds on Tez Johnson myself. I got to put down the
50.
burritos. I got to put down the burritos. I know, but that is, listen, I don't want to take cheap shots at people on this podcast, but Tez Johnson on the tape looks like a bobblehead. And that's the best way I can describe it. He's tiny. He's electric. He's shifty. He's speedy. I'll give you that. But I just don't know how on earth this guy holds up at the NFL level.
Well, the same concerns at Hollywood Brown, right? Tank
Yeah,
Dell, and
sure,
both those
sure.
guys have suffered through injuries. They've been productive,
Yeah.
but they're not reliable or dependable, and the best ability is reliability at this point.
Hey, I'll drink to that.
So I wanted to throw that out there. So quarterback, speaking of Oregon, Dylan Gabriel comes in at 5'10".
5'10".
I'm out. Get him out of here.
Yeah,
It's
I
done.
mean,
It's over.
listen, I understand the experience. I think the tape shows a guy that is capable of going through his progressions, reading a defense, throwing the ball where it needs to be, in command of his offense. But he's another guy that on tape, he just looks tiny. Like, I sent you guys a screenshot in our group chat not too long ago of Dylan Gabriel in the shotgun and Tez Johnson lined up in the slot, and they just looked like children out there.
They look like was it Percy Warner? No,
Percy
no,
Warner,
is it
yeah, like Pop Warner?
Pop Warner?
Pop
That was
Warner,
close. Percy
yeah.
Warner.
Yeah, I mean, they
look like kids in Percy Warner in floaties. That's what I was going with.
They do. They look small. And Zach, you said it on cover 2 today, your appearance with Blaine and Lucas, who did a fantastic job filling in for you today, by the way. But you said it best. Like, if you're that size, that frame, that skill set, which Dylan Gabriel kind of, to me, feels like a point guard. I think his arm strength's okay, but I just don't know how explosive he's going to be at the NFL level. If you don't have extreme talent to overcome those size limitations, you don't usually see those guys pan out in the NFL. And so to me, I know people think that Dylan Gabriel's a day 3 draftable quarterback, but I don't know. He's going to be so scheme dependent that I don't know who and where he is worth the dice roll.
And Landon's right. If you're that small, you need to have Kyler Murray athleticism or the Russell Wilson build. He's kind of got Russell Wilson build because he is 207.
Yeah.
He's like a Chunky Campbell Soup Bryce Young.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, Bryce Young, for all his faults and how the NFL started, he had elite timing coming out of the NFL.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, even despite his size, he went number 1 overall. And there's a reason why he started turning it up and looking like getting closer and closer to that number 1 pick, despite a rough start.
For sure.
I get Dylan Gabriel seems like the contrarian pick at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like, people are going to say stuff, well, he's really smart. Okay, well, how do you know that he's really smart? I'm not saying that he's dumb, but like...
you watching the helmet stripe, watching him go through his reads, make the right throw.
But it's the Oregon offense, like...
And there's a lot
and
of
he's not Bo Nix.
Too.
Like, Bo Nix was on a totally different plane than
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Gabriel. And obviously size plays into that, but I'm not really talking about the size. I'm talking about the skills.
Yeah.
And if you're that scheme, I guess your scheme is that narrow.
Yeah.
Your path to success is that narrow. Someone can probably take a shot on him, but I think he's going to end up being like a 6th rounder. I don't think he's going to be a 5th rounder. Unless he does something crazy at the Senior Bowl.
If you're the most optimistic Gabriel supporter, you think about a system like Kyle Shanahan's, the one that Brock Purdy, who isn't, a size god by any stretch of the imagination, but that system where it is kind of relying upon taking the underneath stuff, the easy throws, the screens, the check downs, that sort of thing. Like, if he gets into a system there, maybe he can make it work. Maybe he can develop into a serviceable backup, can fill in, that sort of thing. Interesting developmental prospect. I don't know, but you mentioned the P word, and that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
He has the
path. The path. They ain't measuring those down here in Mobile, not yet anyway. The path for Dylan Gabriel to find success in the NFL seems so narrow to me that I wouldn't even bother.
And sometimes that's where you have to kind of look at like these day 3 picks. Okay, who fits what we're looking for the best?
Yeah.
And who do we have to adjust the least amount around?
Yeah.
Like, okay, your quarterbacks, okay, you should probably be able to adjust your offensive scheme around either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
Sure.
Your wide receivers kind of feel like, I always kind of feel like, and people think I'm crazy, they're kind of fine. Like, as far as like...
What do you mean? Like who they have?
No, so I mean as in like, I don't feel like there's a scheme that a wide receiver has to fit.
Okay, yeah.
Tight ends, scheme dependent.
Sure.
Offensive line, scheme dependent. But I don't think wide receiver and running back is that scheme dependent.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I kind of feel like I'll put it this way. I kind of feel like you can find a role on offense for just about any wide receiver.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah.
So now that we're done with our Dylan Gabriel slander,
Had to get that out of the
had to
way.
get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rest of these quarterbacks. No Will Howard. I'm surprised that didn't make your pretty big disappointment list, but I guess
But
maybe
we knew it. I mean, we
Yeah.
knew it. It was reported late last week that all the Notre Dame guys, but Riley Leonard's still here. Which
Yeah.
is like, man, this guy's got some toughness to him. I don't want to. I feel myself falling in love with Riley Leonard
We're not doing that on this show.
because I just love how hard he plays. But you know, it ain't.
Yeah,
No.
There's no Riley Leonard on here. So it comes down to Kyle McCord at the Shrine Bowl, who's putting an impressive performance. Max Brosmer.
Shout out Max Brosmer.
Is also putting in a performance. But I think the guy that everybody. Do you think people are more excited as a whole? People in the stands.
People in the stands.
To
Titans
watch
fans?
Jackson Dart? No,
Just
the
people
Senior Bowl.
here. Yeah.
Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe?
100% Jalen Milroe.
You think so?
I mean, we're in Alabama. There's
I
gonna
guess
be Tide fans filling up that stadium on
Yeah.
Saturday to cheer him on. How about his hand measurement coming in? Like
Yeah.
tiny Kenny Pickett hands for Jalen Milroe.
That was pretty insane. I was not
That's-
expecting that.
Yeah, that's pretty damning too, because I mean that's one of those things like people dogged Kenny Pickett for it, and then there was a crowd of people that said, no, hand size doesn't matter. And now
Matters in the cold. And guess who is supposedly rumored to be interested in Jalen Milroe?
who?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
No way. Oh man. Steelers fans would be so damn mad. So pissed.
So it's obviously the Jalen Milroe Jackson Dart show, and we'll get to those guys
Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
in a minute. But I want to give a shout out to Seth Hennigan, University of Memphis quarterback, and I know everybody's like, oh, whatever. 6'3", 213 pounds, smaller hands, bigger hands than Milroe, but smaller hands, 8 and 7/8.
Yeah.
32, 28 in arms, and then 77-inch wingspan, which, you know, I don't know if those really matter for quarterbacks that much. But 4-year starter, a guy that's grown up around football, has been a leader his entire life, and he was a 4-year starter as a true freshman.
Yeah.
This guy came in and owned, and I'm so interested to see what he's able to do down here in Mobile.
I'm with you, and I kind of want to give a shout out to this kid from Canada that's coming in from Wilfrid Laurier, Taylor Elgersma, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But he was a Hula Bowl player.
That's also how you spell Eagles.
It is, isn't it? He was at the Hula Bowl. I wouldn't know. I couldn't tell you because I didn't get to watch the Hula Bowl because the Hula Bowl was a shit show this year. Nonetheless, cannon for an arm, came in at 6'4", looks a little light in his frame, but from a height perspective, kind of has what you look for and has some bombs on tape too. A guy, I don't know where to tell y'all to check this kid out playing Canadian university football, but he's going to be here this week, and I'm excited to see that arm strength on display here in Mobile. He's going to be this year's Joe Milton, throw it into the Gulf of Mexico from Hancock Whitney.
So Jalen Milroe, what's the biggest thing he has to prove this week?
That he can like read what's happening on the field, what the defense is doing, go through progressions and find the open guy. And
so that's almost similar to what Jackson Dart has to prove.
Yeah, but it's different because with Jackson Dart, I watch his tape and I think, you know what, this is a byproduct of the offense. There's operating almost exclusively out of shotgun. There's a lot of spot throws where it's just like you throw to this spot, your receiver's going to get there. There's a lot of one read throws where it's just, hey, look and throw kind of deal. And it's a little wonky. It makes it a little hard to evaluate Ole Miss quarterbacks. Like we kind of struggled with this with Matt Corral too. So it reminds me of Matt Corral anyway in that regard, where it's like the talent is there. You just got to see it from the neck up. Can he be procedural and operating an offense and going through practices? I think that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting to watch with him. For Jalen Milroe, it doesn't really seem like it's a byproduct of the offense. It feels like a tendency of his. And that's why I'm a little more concerned with Milroe than I am with Dart, because it kind of felt like at times he was fixating on the read, the first read of the play, and he was just going to throw it without coming off of it and reading it. Like not necessarily designed to do that. It was just a tendency of his.
Yeah, his deep ball accuracy. Now he's got the cannon. talking about Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
And really, so does Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
But Jalen Milroe, his deep ball accuracy took a step back. They ran way more. They leaned into the run more than Nick Saban did prior. But Tommy Rees, don't really like Tommy Rees as an offensive coordinator. Kalen DeBoer, he looked very lost. A lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
I'm so interested because here's the thing. We're going to come on tomorrow night, 6 o'clock p.m., like we are all throughout the week. And we're going to tell you someone had a bad day because we're not going to cut,
We don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, we don't sugarcoat it.
We tell you what happens on the field.
But that does not mean that they won't progress throughout the week. And that's what you're really looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You want those guys that first off, you obviously want the guys that light it up all week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if you want the guys that progress, that learn, that are coachable throughout the week. And so Jalen Milroe has a real chance to show, we know he's coachable, but can he act on it?
Yeah.
And that's the big issue. And will he get frustrated when other people are maybe making throws he can't make?
I'm calling it right now, too. I think he's going to get some reps at running back this week as well. There have been a lot of scouts that have suggested he's got the build for it.
Right.
He's got the skill set for it. He doesn't necessarily have the skill set for quarterback, so let's move him to running back. I would not be surprised if there's some team down here in Mobile that calls up Jim Nagy and says, hey, Jim, we want to see Jalen Milroe get some work at running back this week just to see what we have. He's going to be out there.
Is he going to be out there pass block?
Pro.
Oh, my gosh.
Pass pro on these linebackers down here. But I do think he'll get a look at running back this week.
I'm interested also. So Jackson Dart's going to be all about watching the helmet stripe. Like that's really what it all is about. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're looking for because his advanced metrics are all great, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Now, can he make tight window throws and can he make the decision quick enough to hit tight window throws? Because in the NFL, you're not going to be as wide open as what you were in Ole Miss. 11th highest rate in FBS last year. 34.6% of his passes were wide ass open.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be like that in the NFL. So we're going to have to see his decision making. Can he read the defenses? Can he go through his progressions? Very important because that's something that Will Levis has struggled with. And if you're thinking about a trade back and you're thinking about Jackson Dart, you got to see the stuff that Will Levis didn't struggle with.
Absolutely. Agree wholeheartedly. Are we going to get into some Tyler Shuck talk now?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to? So let's say his last name again.
Shuck, like shucking corn.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to say about him. I haven't watched him. I'm surprised he was invited to Mobile.
Yeah.
But somebody wants to see him. So I got to get into the Louisville tape, I guess. Maybe he surprises this week and we come away by Saturday and we're saying, damn, day 3, Tyler Shuck, he's the future.
I hate his last name, so I'm already out. I'm already out on his last name.
Yeah, we got, there's some opportunity for his fan club, though. Naming his fan club.
Yeah, the Mother Shuckers.
All the things. Yeah, the Mother Shuckers. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice
okay,
and easy.
So that's our Senior Bowl preview. Of course, we'll be doing this 6 p.m. all throughout the week.
We're here.
But we need to hit up and talk about some of the news that has broken today.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously, over the weekend, we have Reggie McKenzie, senior scout. And then we also have Dave Ziegler as well, who's coming in as assistant GM. So what do you think about those?
Well, why we're going to the Raiders organization to pull from that brain trust, I don't know. This, to me, it just kind of feels like relationship hires, experience hires, like to get a more seasoned brain trust intact here, which I think makes sense because you and I have been critical at the top of this organization, like who's making the real football decisions, who at the top knows ball, who's all ball all day. And I don't think we've had an acceptable answer for that until now. And so at the very least, I think you're getting guys with a lot of NFL experience, even if their draft classes have not been particularly great. But I think they know the ropes and they kind of know what it takes. You've got some GM experience in-house at the top. So now you look at it and you say, okay, you know what? You've got some guys that have been there before at the top of this thing. Maybe we're trending in the right direction where people at the top can make good football decisions. I think that's the optimistic.
I think providing more and more experience and infusing experience inside that building.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll take it wherever it can get.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, obviously they flamed out as general managers, But guess what? There's offensive coordinators like Norv Turner and Mike Zimmer who kind of weren't that great of head coaches, but they're
Yeah.
fantastic
Mhm.
coordinators. Vic
Mhm.
Fangio is another one. Uh, um, Brian Flores had a rough go.
Yeah.
But those are still all the guys at top of their game at some point. So these guys can provide value even if it's not as general manager. I mean, obviously, with the way that it's set up with Dave Ziegler, I kind of get the sense that I think he's going to be more on the pro side based on his job history
Yeah.
and his responsibilities with the Patriots,
Mhm.
which would make some sense to kind of take that off the plate of Mike Berganzi, who is really supposed to be dialed in on the draft and scouting process.
Draft and develop.
And Reggie McKenzie, for all his warts, has been in the league for forever.
Yeah.
He can speak the same language. He can speak the same grading system, the same processes. And when you're off watching tape or something, he can make sure the ship is driving in the right direction,
Yes.
flowing in the right direction.
It's like you got your wizard that you can go consult, figure out what spells you got to hit, you got to chant. The wealth of knowledge.
There you go. The other thing is Colt Anderson, rest in peace, finally fired.
Pour one out.
Pour one
out.
Renee Stewart has taken over for Anthony Levine. So we got Jim Fossil and Anthony Levine. And just remember, if you can't remember if it's Fossil or Fassel, Fossil, because his nickname is Bones, and fossils are bones.
Fossil bones. Bones fossils.
There you go.
Yeah.
So upgrade, obviously, it's really great. Chris Harris, he's gone. I don't think that's as big as loss as what everybody's going to probably make it out to be. I think he came in with a bigger reputation and better reputation than what his performance. I don't think he ever lived up to that reputation.
Yeah, and he missed, I don't remember exactly how many weeks it was, but he missed significant time during the season. And I mean, we didn't really see much of an impact from the cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So
like, even if when he was gone for those 5 to 7 weeks, nothing changed.
Yeah.
So I love Tony Oden. He was a guy that has a relationship with Brian Callahan. I put him on the list for defensive coordinator at some point, before Denard Wilson. Well respected. I think that's a huge get for this Tennessee team. And then, of course, Luke Stocker has been promoted from assistant tight ends coach to now tight ends coach, which is a quick promotion.
It is, but I mean, like, they like him inside the building. We don't have the insight to like the day-to-day coaching stuff and running the meetings and that sort of stuff, but this is an endorsement from Brian Callahan that this guy's ready to be a position coach, and he's been with the Titans for quite some time. Like, I don't know. I know it's an under the radar kind of promotion, but this kind of feels like the natural path, the natural trajectory for a guy like Luke Stocker. So good for him. I'm happy for him.
All right. So what's your one more thing before we get out of here?
One more thing. Okay. Well, let's see here. I want to talk about Deion Walker's gargantuan measurements. This man is a mountain. Came in at 6'7", 340 pounds, 10 and 6/8 inch hands, 34 and 5/8 inch arms, and an 84.5 inch wingspan.
And he's a pass rusher.
And he's
known
listed as a,
but he's known as a pass rusher.
Yeah. That's right. Listed as a defensive line, known as a pass rusher, a guy that has gargantuan size. I think was getting some first round buzz back in the summer. His 2024 tape kind of fell off a little bit. A lot of people are down on him, but that is an absolute unit, as they say.
Yeah, I would say that my one more thing is, like, don't get too wrapped up in the highlights. You're going to see a lot of highlights this week. There's going to be a lot of information out there, and some of these guys that come down and cover, they watch the one-on-ones, and then they go talk to their buddy. They start networking down there on the field.
That's how they do.
So be careful about what you start believing and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that we are the perfect talent evaluators or anything.
I don't know.
But again, we're not going to sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because we don't have any agents that have reached out to us to, give us information under the table. So we are free and clear.
I'm going to sit in those bleachers
Yep.
with this notebook tomorrow, and I'm going to just jot down shit all day. That's all I'm going to do. Don't try and talk to me tomorrow if you see me in the stands, because I'm going to be writing something down. And that's that. That's how we do.
That will do it for us. We'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. We'll be here Tuesday now, because this is Monday. Tuesday through Friday, 6 p.m. every night. We'll be doing reviews, telling you the ins and outs, what we've heard, what we've seen. We have a couple of interviews lined up as well.
Yeah.
So we'll get you all the information that you need. I got a little surprise guest maybe on Wednesday. Not Wednesday night, but maybe at the stadium I'll be interviewing someone.
Hey. That's a tease.
So there you go. So we'll get you more information once that's all hammered out. Other than that, thank you to Lyons Ford. Drive a little, save a lot down in Lewisburg, Tennessee. They're always going to give you the most bang for your trade-in, give you all the discounts that you qualify for. And then, of course, Mark Spain Real Estate. No real estate company treats you and your house better than Mark Spain Real Estate. For Stoney Keeley, I'm Zach Lyons. This has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.